Talk Radio, you're in to all things music.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to the show, and thank you for tuning in. I want to say a quick thank you to my guest on last week's episode, Grammy Award-winning artist Melissa Manchester. If you didn't get to hear it, you can listen to all of our episodes at entertalkradio.com/makingit or download our app and take us with you. Also, be sure to tune in next week to hear my conversation with Kalimba Records international recording artist Greg Manning. I'd like to take a moment to also thank the companies that help me sound my best, whether I'm performing live or in the studio recording and producing music. Blue Microphones, Taylor Guitars, Duesenberg Guitars, Seymour Duncan Pickups, Mesa Boogie Amps, Diodario Strings and Planet Waves, MOTU Digital Performer, IK Multimedia, Fishman Acoustic Amps, and Exotic Effects. So often I get asked questions about the creative process, so I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music business. You're really in for a treat, as I've invited my friends, some of the best and brightest in music, to share their stories on how they have influenced the music that has shaped our lives. I guarantee you're going to love it. So let's get started. My guest today is Matt LaPoint. Matt LaPoint works in Los Angeles in the fields of recording technology, music production, and education. He's the West Coast representative for MOTU, a musical technological company. As a recording engineer, Matt works on a wide range of projects from score mixes to full album productions. He teaches sound design in the film department at Art Center College of Design and works as a freelance studio consultant. Matt draws on his background as a composer and musician in all facets of his work. Matt's production work can be heard on scores and songs for Disney, CBS, Warner Brothers, Universal Studios, A&E, BSX Records, Lifetime Television, USA Network, Threshold Animation Studios, and Immediate Music, to name just a few. Please welcome my guest today, Matt LaPoint. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Terry. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm actually recovering from a little bit of flu from the NAMM show. I hope you didn't get sick.
Didn't get sick. It's funny, my voice is still recovering, but it's almost back 100%.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I want to, I thought it'd be interesting to start our conversation by me giving a little bit of history on MOTU, and then, of course, talking about you and your career and how that all works together. In 1984, Mark of the Unicorn released Professional Composer, one of the very first application programs for the Apple Macintosh. The program used the Macintosh's high-resolution graphics and printing to allow the user to print professional-quality music scores. In 1985, the company released a music sequencer named Performer, also based on the Macintosh platform, for arranging and performing with synthesizers and other devices, which recognized the then newly developed MIDI standard. In 1990, MOTU added the ability to synchronize digital audio to Performer and released it as Digital Performer. Months after Opcode added this capability to Vision. Digital Performer was originally designed as a front end to DigiDesign's hard disk recording system, which later became Pro Tools. Anything you want to add to that story?
Yep, that's exactly right in terms of the timeline of the products. It's interesting when one of the first products in 1980 was actually a word processor, if you can believe it. We're talking about a couple of graduates of MIT that started that company, and they were musicians and interested in music. And like you said, got into creating the notation software, which then evolved into Performer, which later on became Digital Performer. But, it's interesting. The MIT connection is still very much a part of the DNA of MOTU. We still have a direct line in terms of employing and hiring young, talented DSP developers and coders. But, they're in Cambridge. And obviously, with Performer and Digital Performer, they also got into creating hardware. And early on, it was in the form of MIDI interfaces, sync boxes like the digital timepiece, and then later on PCI and FireWire, and it sort of evolved into this elaborate hardware system.
And Mark of the Unicorn is still located on the East Coast in Massachusetts. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. It's in Cambridge. Yep. In
Cambridge. I just full disclosure for all of our listeners today. I've been using I've been using Performer since it came out in 1985. So my relationship with your company is one of the longest relationships I've been in, personally and business wise. It's a company that I love and respect, and I have made all of my records using your software and hardware, and also producing other people's records and film scores, and it's an incredibly versatile program, and as far as I'm concerned, a great company. And that's part of the reason that I wanted to shine the light on the company and through your eyes, because you're the West Coast rep.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great, Terry. I mean, you've been with this company for such a long time, and that's kind of a testament to the company in general. I think there's so many guys that I know in Los Angeles in particular that are longtime users who have got into it early and have stuck with it. It's always interesting with DAWs and workstations how, some developers have a lead in certain areas. They all sort of eventually catch up, and DP has obviously stood the test of time and kept adapting and evolving and adding, pro features for guys that are in the scoring world or like you, and arranging, composing, mixing. It's amazing. Like, I think when I mentioned to you, I sent you some information. I got into it in 91 with Performer. Right. I had my dad's Mac. I think it was an LC3 Mac that my dad had in his office, and he said, you can have this for music stuff. And so I had Performer and an opcode MIDI interface, and I fell in love with it too. I was, really getting into it, dug into it. And it's funny how life is. You kind of visualize and you sort of fantasize about, I thought that technology was so amazing that I used to think it'd be so cool to work in that field. And so it's funny how, later on I ended up working for MOTU, and it's just one of those reminders about your life. It's like, never know where you're going to land.
No, you sure don't. You sure don't. And, you mentioned the other companies, and I've always wondered, or it's always seemed to me that you all have, the leading software companies have sort of a healthy competition with staying neck and neck with each other. I don't know if it's sharing technology, but certainly, kind of following what each other does and implementing and improving on what each other does. Is that accurate? Do you get together with the reps from the other companies and swap stories, or do you just have a healthy respect for each other and keep a distance? How does that work?
Oh, I know a lot of guys over the years that work for other companies. We're all in the same industry, and there's a lot of overlap when it comes to users and various applications for these programs, but not so much that we get together directly. I mean, we see each other at various trade shows, but it's kind of important. Like, I have a familiarity with the other programs just to be wise and smart about what we do and what differentiates Digital Performer from the other workstations. I think the one thing I think a lot of users tell me, and I get the sense from having used the other tools out there, that people like the musicality of Digital Performer. It was kind of created for composers and sort of classically trained musicians. Not that you needed to read necessarily to be good at it. It's just that it sort of speaks that language. And so film composers like the way that it's designed, and that kind of, and a way that sort of separates it from other production tools that are more designed for editing and mixing, where
right.
DP kind of does more musical things.
You know, it's interesting that you said that, because one of the jobs that I got a few years back was working with film composer Bill Conti on a feature film. And part of the reason that I was hired was because I used Digital Performer, and so did he. He was looking for a guitarist who was familiar with DP that could collaborate with him on this film score.
Ah, that's right. What a great story. I remember that. And I love Bill Conti. I've always been a big fan of his music.
Me too.
Met him met him at the NAMM show maybe 10 years ago. He came up to the booth, and I was, Conti. It was so great to meet him.
Yeah, he's very well loved and respected in the music community, and you know, and I feel the same way about him. It was really a treat and an honor to work with him, and it was really nice that being a DP user was part of the skill set that I brought to the table. I mean, he knew me as a guitar player, but when he found out that I worked in the same program as him, then there was no further to look, as far as he was concerned. And we had you would have been an excellent fit, like you said, with your musical ability, and then with the technical ability and being able to help Bill. That what a great place to be at that time. Perfect time. Yeah, it was a great experience. So you could pretty much say about MOTU that Mark of the Unicorn has been a leader in the music recording software industry since the invention of MIDI. Yeah, I mean, we've won so many awards, and we have so many sort of industry firsts. In terms of being the first Mac sequencer, the first Apple-based sequencer for that operating system, dating all the way back. And then sort of sticking with it and evolving and coming into this day. I show people, look, here's a program that started as a MIDI program that didn't even really have a graphical editor, just an event list at the time. Mm-hmm. And now here's a program that I can run a 5.1 or 7.1 surround mix while slave to picture, while generating time code, tapping tempos, doing surround delays. Like, this program is, to this day, like, it's mind-blowing, like how deep. I still find little treasures in it. I've spent so much time in this program. I love just, learning new little tricks. Like, sometimes I talk to professionals and they're like, they show me something. I'm like, oh my gosh, after all these years, I'm still learning in Digital Performer. I love that, because normally you're the person that I think of that knows all the tricks, the things that aren't in the manual.
It's funny. Yeah, I try to. I mean, that's the thing. And that's one thing that's great about working for a company like this is seeing all these different musicians that use these tools, and then watching them work, and then going, oh, I can save this person in 5 or 6 steps over the course of an hour's time, which for a film composer, could save them, hours over the course of a month or a film project. And I love that process, like knowing a lot of the shortcuts and all these little sort of techniques in DP, and watching someone work and saying, did you know that you could do this, and speed up your workflow?
So, can you tell our listeners what your job title is, and really what your job is? How would you describe your job?
Oh, so I guess you could say formally West Coast representative, but funny, a lot of the team members at MOTU don't really have official titles. We all kind of wear different hats. So in a way, you could call me a product specialist. Sometimes I'm a sales manager, but sort of the ins and outs, the day-to-day would be, obviously handling a lot of the emails. I'm kind of a point person when it comes to people and end users, although really, in a way, I spend my time talking to a lot of dealers in Los Angeles that sell our products. But, I'm happy to answer questions for users who have questions. But really, in a way, it's just getting to the various dealers, telling them about new products, helping their customers build systems. There's so many, you think about Los Angeles. I mean, on any given day, someone's building a composing rig. Tours now, tours are really, really big right now. In fact, and DP and MOTU hardware are widely used. It's become the standard on tours. And think about that's one area.
Well. Yeah.
And theater, exactly. So, I would say, like, for instance, tomorrow morning, I'll be over at Westlake Pro, and every week I do a free workshop for like an hour and a half to 2 hours. And everybody who's able to go is welcome to come and ask their questions. They have a nice facility at Westlake Pro. And we have, obviously, DP installed in both their A and B rooms. And people just ask a wide variety of questions. It's actually kind of a fun hang. There's a nice group of people that come, and and want to learn about Digital Performer or MOTU software or hardware, and we just dig in, and it's great. It's every week. So I go, obviously that's Westlake Pro, but there's companies in town like RSPE, Vintage King, Guitar Center, Sam Ash. There's a whole, number of audio companies that sell these products, and they just need to know, what's happening. Hey, what are the new interfaces? How does this networking stuff work? And so I'm the guy that handles that. And then obviously I'd handle and talk to a lot of professionals and users.
And for those that don't know, Westlake Pro is located in North Hollywood, almost directly across the street from Universal City. So it's
Exactly.
an easy location for people to get to. And those are available to anybody, and they're free. So you are very accessible. You don't already have to be a digital performer, owner, or user. Everybody's welcome, correct?
Absolutely. And then keep in mind, let's say someone's listening who uses another workstation but might be interested in MOTU hardware or our audio interfaces or video interfaces. There's a lot of products, everything that we make in the audio interface technology world works with everything. So if a Pro Tools user is interested in that, or Cubase or Logic, Nuendo, Ableton Live, our stuff. So, again, like you could come in with some questions about the hardware and you're not a DP user at all, and that's not interesting to you. So it might apply to a lot of your other types of your audience members.
Right. So you can still use MOTU hardware to run any software program.
Exactly. Yep. Or on both platforms, Mac and Windows.
Mac and Windows. That's great.
Mac and Windows. Yeah. So we have a very expansive system. Not that I'm trying to sell the system.
It's
nowadays,
okay. You can. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to mention, if you don't mind, just for 2 seconds, like now we were talking about live playback and theater and sound.
We have 30 seconds before we hit our next commercial. So,
okay, cool. We can maybe bring it back next time if you want.
We can. We absolutely can. But people can. I'm speaking to Matt LaPoint, and you work with MOTU as well as with many other people. And I want to talk about how you ended up moving to MOTU, the other things that you do in the music industry, and how people can find out more about Mark of the Unicorn and about you as a composer and tech. So please stick around. We will be back after a very short break on Making It with Terry Wallman.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome back. I'm here with my guest today, Matt LaPoint, and we are talking about the company that he represents and works for, Mark of the Unicorn, or MOTU. And Matt, you were just talking about some of the free clinics that you give around Los Angeles, and I would imagine around the country as well.
Right. You know, I mean, mostly I would call, since I'm the West Coast, I occasionally head north to the San Francisco Bay Area. And then, in fact, last April, I was a guest of composer Ron Jones up in his Seattle studio. In fact, it was really cool. He had a whole user group of guys in Seattle, composers, come, and I gave a presentation to about 40 guys. And Ron was a well-known composer in L.A. who worked on Family Guy and Star Trek, and great guy. But yeah, Westlake Pro is the Thursday hang that we do for MOTU weekly, and it's free, and just show up and bring your MOTU questions, and yeah, that's every week.
And that's for beginners or advanced users and owners or non-owners. It's for everybody. It's to your,
exactly.
It's really
involved.
I think it's so wonderful that Westlake Pro and a few other locations in town provide free tech advice. You know, it's fantastic because it can be overwhelming to learn new software and to stay current with it.
Absolutely. You're no doubt about it. Yeah, and we're very thankful for Westlake. We have a very good relationship with them. They sell a lot of our products, and obviously we support them. They support us. And you're right. Even though there's a lot of resources out there online, things that people can learn from websites or videos, YouTube, sometimes just the face-to-face or more than, it seems like half the time somebody asks a question, it's the other people in the audience that go, I didn't even think to ask that question. And we're all sort of learning from each other, from other people's questions.
Mm-hmm. So here's another question for you that I'm curious about. Software developers are generally not exposed directly to real life application of their products. You know, you're very highly trained engineers and developers are, in, they're back east and they're sitting in their cubicles, being brainiacs and geniuses and doing these amazing things. But the artist reps like yourself have the opportunity to be in the trenches with working artists, which gives you a heads up on what your product requires to stay relevant. So would you say that's accurate?
I mean, certainly my job is to definitely interface with, the professional and how they use the program. But it's interesting, most of the MOTU developers are really cool guys that play instruments and are musicians. And so the idea that, they're all brilliant guys. Obviously, That's what they do. They code all day, but they're all unique. In fact, we had a developer recently named Michael Miller who was an MIT graduate and a brilliant guy and also a composer and a musician and a singer. It's interesting. Some of these guys are pretty scary when you think about the talent level and what these guys are capable of. But no, obviously not everyone's like that. But certainly being in LA and talking to guys and listening to their feedback. Hey, what wouldn't be great if we could do this? I want this. Clients are asking for this, and obviously the work that I do outside of MOTU really also plays into giving feedback to the developers on what the guys want.
Well, and let's talk about that because you are not just a MOTU rep. You also still are a mixing engineer and you do production and you're a musician yourself, an accomplished musician, a composer, singer, pianist, drummer. So what else do you do?
So, aside from the MOTU work, I also teach sound design at Art Center College of Design, which you mentioned. So there's a film department there, and all these aspiring directors and filmmakers and editor students, they don't know, sort of how to deal with the music and the score. They do take post-production classes on miking and production sound, but, it's like that famous quote from George Lucas, the music and the score, 50% of the experience in the theater and the experience in television, music and the sound. And so I'm really lucky to work with the film composer, Dennis McCarthy, and we do these scores that for these students, and they learn how you communicate your ideas as a filmmaker to the composer. What can you expect them to do based on a certain budget? We bring in live players. So I teach there, and I also do freelance mixing. So work on a variety of things. I mean, commercials to television shows, feature films, trailers. I'm working for a company now, Immediate Music in Santa Monica. They do these really high production film trailers. And so, yeah, that's the thing. I love MOTU products, but I actually use them every day for the work that I do. And so I'm very fast. I know I know what to expect. I know how DP should perform. So I'm very sensitive to how it should be. And so when I talk to users, I can listen to them and really try to interpret what they're doing and figure out their problems and help problem solve based on my own personal experience.
So you mentioned the Art Center at College where you teach with Dennis McCarthy. I know that you also interface with other universities, including Shepherd University, where I teach record production and performance, and also Berklee College, where I studied back in Boston. Does MOTU maintain a strong relationship with music schools all over the world? Is that a big part of the MOTU mission statement?
I mean, we certainly try. I mean, like you said, we're very connected to Berklee in Boston. We're over there all the time doing presentations and stuff. And I'm out here, like you said, whether it's Shepherd or even UCLA, USC, I'll go as a guest and speak to various composing students, music department students. I have, a lot of friends and colleagues who are faculty members. Guys like Gary Scheinman at USC or Peter Erskine or guys like Pat Kelly. They're faculty members who are also, composers and musicians and MOTU users. And so they're like, hey, Matt, what would you want to come down and hang out with us? Absolutely. And we're always trying to, that's the hardest challenge, I think, as a company like MOTU is just to really sort of get as much visibility. And that's why we're very thankful to you for this show, just to get the word out because, the people that use these products, they love it and they're very loyal. But, a lot of the guys, just your everyday musician guy that might walk into a Guitar Center, who knows where in Lansing, Michigan, is he going to know about Performer or MOTU products? It's difficult to reach those audiences. We have to just keep working at it and doing our best to reach those guys.
So, boy, I'm curious about how you manage your time because you sound like you've got a lot of things going on. I know in addition to everything that you just said, you practice piano, drums, bass, and voice every day. And you also have 2 daughters and you're married. You've got a family. What's your schedule like on a typical day? I'm always fascinated by how successful artists manage their time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess in a way, I've always been kind of somewhat of a homebody. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love to go to concerts and stuff, but I also equally love hanging out with the crew here at the house. And then we all crash early. I must be in bed before 10 o'clock, but I'm up at 5:30. And that's when I can find the quiet time to really practice. Like between 5:30 and like 8 o'clock, I can really dig in and get some things done practice-wise. And then what's cool is, working for MOTU is I work at home. I have an office here, my studio essentially. Right. So I, check emails and make phone calls and do things. But I can spend 3 or 4 days a week working at home. I can get a lot done and I can, practice and obviously write and mix. And, it's just, I'm like probably most people, very very, very type A about being super organized. Try to keep my schedule very organized and stay on top of things as much as possible. And I'm also very much about, trying to reduce clutter and just kind of keep things very simple and clean. And it just makes for feeling, that's at least my personality type, is that when I feel that organized, I feel then I can go into music and feel very sort of unrestricted. It kind of makes me feel like I've done all this things organized, and then when I shift hats, I can feel like I can move over there and come back and forth, but feel like sort of lighter and more creative.
I've met a lot of successful artists and composers that have said the same thing. They get up at 5 a.m, 6 a.m, and they spend a couple of hours in their very sacred, it's a very cool part of the day. Nothing's really happened yet, and the family's not up yet, and they get their best creative work done there, and then they can move on and handle their business throughout the day and not feel a sense of frustration or lack of focus, and being able to give the business the same attention that it deserves, without sacrificing giving the music what it deserves, in the practicing time.
That's a really interesting point, Terry. The other thing I was going to mention about this, kind of relates to it, is I think when I first, how with every position, there's always a question of sort of setting up what we might call like fences or parameters. It's like, because, we're all like this now. We're all like doing 10 different things, whether in your case, you're teaching, you're performing, you're writing, you're arranging, you're recording. You've got, everybody's wearing 50 hats.
Yes.
And sometimes you have to sort of, but I think what I've done recently psychologically is decided, it kind of made it in my mind that they're all interconnected. And so therefore don't see them as separate entities. They're all interrelated. Like what I learned from teaching with my students relates to when I mix and MOTU, and what I learned at MOTU about some new product will come back and around to, the way it works with professionals, my own music, mixing, students. It's all a circle. It all interrelates. So when one area gets slow, I focus my energies on another area, and I learn something, and I get really sharp on one thing, and it comes back to the others. It all sort of intermingles, and it all is interconnected. And that makes me feel good, because that makes me feel like, don't sweat getting slow, or don't sweat, a drop off in a certain area. Keep plugging away, and sure enough, things, it just gets busy again.
I totally agree, and I love that, and I think that's the healthiest way to look at it and to approach it, is to understand that it's all connected. It's not one instead of the other. They all complement and feed and support each other. And one other point about that, Terry, and thank you for saying that. One other thing I was going to mention is I also don't distinguish between the creative process and the technical ability. Oh, that's interesting.
Because here's the reason why. Think about this for a second. You go, when you're very technical and somebody says to you, hey, I'd love to, fly this in and reverse this and change this and put effect on this and do all these things. If you can't actually execute the technical steps to do that, you can have creative ideas all day. But to be able to execute it means you have to be very technical. And by the way, it's no accident that a lot of these guys that I go into their studios, people like Danny Elfman, the people that are the workaholic geniuses that make a lot of money doing what they do, they're very technical and very creative. I think there's an idea, sometimes younger people think that they're going to, they want to be John Williams, but they want to sit at the piano or write music. But unfortunately, the world has changed, and it's evolved to where you really do need to be a computer expert. You need to know programs. You need to know how to run notation programs. You've got to have to, the longer you wait, you're going to have to be frustrated. I mean, you might get frustrated, but, I hate to say it, but these guys, you're just going to have to really learn these skills so that you can. So, and the other part of it is, let's say you're only technical. If you're only a technical person, you're not going to get very far, because you're not going to have really creative things to interpret. You're not going to be able to think creatively with a client. Someone says, you're only thinking from a technical standpoint. Therefore, you may not think of really cool, creative things for your client. So you're going to have to try to be both.
That makes complete sense. And it also, I find that, you're speaking as as both as an engineer, as a programmer, as a technical advisor, all of those are complemented by the fact that you're a trained musician. So that when you've worked with me in my studio and guided me and advised me, you understand musically what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And
exactly. Like having the musical skills, like when I talk to various production students that are coming up in schools, I always say, hey, now is the time. You're young. You don't have a lot of commitments. Really try to learn as much as you can, experiment as much as you can, like learn instruments, do different things, because like you said, if having a musical background is so important when you're communicating, obviously with musicians, working on film scores, and people are saying, and are talking in musical terminology, or you'll have an idea. You'll have, my ears are very sensitive to various, let's say, pitch correction. You're working with a various artist and someone's not hearing something. Just give me a second. Let me fix that note. Well, we could re-sing it. Well, we fixed it. It's done. Let's move on.
Right.
Or, one of the skills that I've kind of have honed over the years is, nowadays, not a lot of composers will have the budget to record a live orchestra. Mm-hmm. So they're dealing with good samples. That's just the nature of the game. Well, there are certain techniques that I've picked up and kind of refined over the years where I can make plastic orchestras, as we call them, sound as real as possible using certain types of, impulse response, convolution reverbs, or various techniques. Like I'll give you an example. Let's say you're dealing with samples only on a score, and you really want to have some real meat, some real guts, and real strong strength. There's a plug-in from Waves called Low Air. And Low Air, what's cool about it, it creates a sub-octave below. And what's cool is it's all phase accurate. So imagine like with a plastic orchestra, you dial in just a subtle amount of an octave below of like an orchestra, and you tuck it into the mix, and it has like, if you've been in probably Capitol when you hear an orchestra bowing, and what that sounds like, the back of the room where the
air moving through the room and the bows.
That air moving through the room, you get that low, present. It's not really a. It's not even. It's like non-tonal rumble, but it's like, oh, that's the sound. That's that sound that you can't get with a plastic orchestra. But if you know how to reach for it, you can do it with certain types of plugins.
That's a great tip. We're, believe it or not, heading into our next break. When we come back, I want to talk about what MOTU and other companies like yours looks for when they're being approached by artists that want an endorsement. So everybody stick around. I'm with Matt LaPoint from MOTU. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on InterTalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on InterTalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. pitbullaudio.com.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome back. I'm having a conversation with my friend Matt LaPoint, who is the my West Coast rep and friend from MOTU, and you're sort of my technical guru, you know, when it comes to sequencing and using the program that Digital Performer that I use. So let me ask you the $1 million question, the one that people are always curious about. And I know there's not just one simple answer for this, but since you are often approached by musicians looking for product endorsements, what does a company like MOTU look for when considering working with an artist?
Oh, you know what's interesting? In a way, it's funny. We don't really have a formal endorsement policy, but
Right.
Of course we have. It's almost like in a way we have like very close relationships with people, and I think what we're always looking for. A variety of talented people who are using our products in a unique way. And sometimes that might mean we'll do an ad. We used to do a lot of back page magazines back when print was all the rage. But
Right, I remember.
Now, we'll do, videos, YouTube videos. We'll do announcements. Or I'll do, when I'm doing presentations in Los Angeles for big events, I always want to bring artists up who, use our products. And so there's a whole lot of ways that we can actually, showcase and spotlight users. But, I think the best way is to just, get in touch with someone at MOTU. You can even just email like suggestions at MOTU and just say, hey, we get these emails quite often. I'm so-and-so, I'm an artist in, wherever in Berlin, and I'm recording with an orchestra, and just let us know. And maybe there's a way that we would figure out a way to have a relationship with these artists.
And, thanks for answering that so honestly and clearly, because so many people don't know how to approach that. But more so, you use the key word relationship. So it's not just, about people, you giving things to people. And that's not really, those aren't the kind of relationships that MOTU pursues. But you do give tremendous artist support.
Yeah, exactly.
Technical
that's a good point.
support.
Yeah, and that's one thing that, I always feel like, one of the things that drew me to MOTU early on is that I always thought, well, here's a great company because, they make great products, but they make these amazing products that we are used for incredible music, and they make these products very affordable. That's the thing about MOTU. I'm not going to name names of some of our competition, but, there are some companies that really make it more expensive and difficult and more proprietary in a way. And we've always been very straightforward. We have one version of Digital Performer, and it's, hey, and if you're a student, $395 or $295 an academic price,
Right.
So we make it really affordable to get into this program. We make the upgrades affordable. We make a hardware and MIDI and video solution for it. We have free tech support. And so that's why, in a way, if I break somebody's heart by saying, look, we can't necessarily do a formal artist relationship, hey, there's not a large threshold to pop through to get into these products anyway. To at least get going and learning them, and then we'll try to establish a relationship.
Right. So let's talk about the story. How did you become originally the West Coast representative for MOTU?
Cool. Oh, thanks. I'll do the very quick version, which is back when I was, my dad was a professor. We moved to Lawrence, Kansas, of all places, which is
actually your dad's a professor, and your mom is a singer and who has a master's degree.
Singer and actor. Right? Yeah, she was an actor, musician, and she studied voice and got her master's and all that. She was into her music stuff, but. So, it's interesting. I have 3 brothers, and they're all very interestingly successful in a way. Like my oldest brother is a meteorologist. He's on TV, and my younger brother is the Dallas Cowboys. He's the national scout for the Dallas Cowboys. We're all
that's great.
And my other brother Mark works in a software company. He's like one of the sales directors for it. So we're all very weird guys. I'm the black sheep music guy, unfortunately, here in Los Angeles, but. No, so anyway, long story short, I went to the University of Kansas, right? And when I graduated from high school, I started getting into, sequencing with, drum machines and hardware and keyboards. I started getting into that. And I started building my own recording studio. And this guy who was the music director at the University of Kansas, I was in this jazz vocal group called the Jazz Singers. And he said, "Hey, you should get Performer for your Mac." I said, "What is that?" He said, "Well, it's a sequencer." So I went to the Greeley, Colorado music store. Back in those days, students don't realize that you bought floppies in bookstores.
Yes, that's right.
It's all free internet. It's like, literally, can you imagine? It was expensive too, Terry. It was I think it was for my MIDI interface and DP, it was like $400.
I remember I had the same setup as you with that. Yeah, the opcode interface. Yeah, it was a big commitment.
Exactly. So I wrote the check. I got the floppy. I got the big, thick manual. Went home, and then, it's funny, I don't know if this happened to you or not, but I bought it, and it sat for like a couple months because I just didn't have the guts to dig in on it, so I kind of let it sit, and then I finally realized, get going on this thing. So I installed it and started plugging it in, and here's the funny thing. So I'm really getting into sequencing, and I have my own recording studio in this nice little college town recording bands and stuff, and I started working in a recording studio, a commercial recording studio, and after a few years, my wife and I decided, she worked for a publishing company as a web designer who had an office. They had an office in Los Angeles. She could transfer and she'd have a job. And she was actually at the time making pretty good money. So I could be, starting up. So we moved in 2000 to Santa Monica. And then I hit the ground running as sort of a tech consultant guy. I was working for different artists, kind of wiring studios and just helping do whatever. And then I went to work for Westlake Music. Just briefly, I thought, well, this is a good way to meet people. So it's funny, when I called, I was already, and used MOTU products. I knew them really well. And I started talking to a lot of customers and helping them with their MOTU systems. And then I got familiar with the sales director at MOTU, and I asked him, he said, "Who's the rep in Los Angeles for MOTU?" Well, it was Ralph Cook, but he left.
Right, I used to work with Ralph, yeah. Mm-hmm. With
Ralph Cook. So Ralph actually was going on tour doing DP playbacks for a playback system for Lenny Kravitz at the time.
Right.
So I'm like, oh my God, this is my way out of Westlake music. So
perfect.
I put on a clinic and had a big turnout, and they said, "You got the gig." So I left, and that's the rest is history. I started working for MOTU, and I just love the guys there. It's just a great company. They treat everybody very well. They make great products. What can I say? It's been 14 years with this company.
Wow.
And I really enjoy working for them.
You asking who's the MOTU rep, that was such a smart question. And I really believe that your openness to taking one job that you might not have originally considered doing, working at West LA Music, led you directly to the job that you have now. That's so important, to be open-minded and take initiative.
Oh, yeah. They're right. Well, what's interesting was it was a little bit of a different time. Reps are still important, and there are some very good reps that are around Los Angeles doing their jobs. But back in the day, like around 2001, every company had a rep, and everybody would. It was actually a real scene. Like, if you can, it's not like it's funny. Back in the old days in 1950, no, but really around 2001, you walk into West LA Music, and hey, there's the guy from Waves, and here's so and so from Korg and Roland, and everybody was there, and we were all talking to everybody. It was sort of a different era, but more than, like you said, the relationships that you build with all these different artists, guys like you, companies, sales guys, and you sort of build a family of relationships. And by the way, for your, what's interesting is we were talking about earlier about how everybody has to sort of wear different hats.
Right.
I think it's a real joy to work in the products industry. I really feel like it lets me be kind of on the cutting edge of the technology. Obviously, I have to do that to stay with it. And then it kind of, obviously it benefits what I do with teaching and then mixing. And it's just sort of like, I'm really lucky. And I think for a lot of people who may not think, let's say they're a guitar player, composer, you'd be surprised, that keep your eyes and ears open. Because I think what a lot of musician type people would say, well, that's like sales. I don't really want to be in sales. But the truth is that we're all in sales. And that's true. Another thing that we have to do. We're all salesmen. We're all selling our talents. We're all selling ourselves as teachers, educators, composers, musicians. And it's not cheesy. I mean, that we're all sales, because we really are. And sales is ultimately about listening and creating relationships and kind of being at the right place and sort of helping people solve problems. So anyway, that's my little 2 cents on that.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's also about creating your own opportunities, which you clearly have through your whole career.
Well, yeah, you just try to keep moving. And, hopefully, as you say, you just kind of try to adapt. And I think the thing about technology, and this is kind of, I always think of it metaphorically as a wave, because it kind of is. Like, at first, you can't get to the crest. You're so far behind. It's just like you feel like you're being overwhelmed. You're being drowned out by the wave. If you keep learning and paying attention and getting up on the technology, you can be kind of on the crest, and you can try. Just I'm not saying I'm this way all the time, no, but I'm saying you really try to stay with the flow. And if you really kind of feel like you've gotten caught up, then you can go to NAMM and you can look around and go, oh, okay, so now they're doing this and they're doing this and so-and-so's doing this, and then they're bringing up this technology, and and you kind of feel like you can go with that new crest and you can follow that wave. Then I go back to my clients and they say, hey, I need new drive technology. I need another controller. I need faster machines. How can I network my Macs together? And you can tell them how to do it, because first of all, I'm passionate about it. I love it. It's going to help them. It's going to help us. Again, it sounds like this sort of, this kind of, I don't know, maybe it sounds a little cheesy, but it's,
I don't think so at all. And, this show is really about sharing perspective. It's about having a career, finding a career, making a career, maintaining a career. And it's about passion. The show is about passion and integrity and joy. So everything that you're talking about is spot on.
Well,
really
thank
important.
you, Terry. I mean, like you said, I love the technology, and I think I love problem solving and helping musicians accomplish what they want. I'll be at the NAMM show, it's as tiring as it is. You have all these cool people that come up to the booth. You meet all these fascinating musicians, and they all have questions. And ultimately, we're all here on this planet for just a relatively short period of time. We want to express ourselves, make some money and feel good, and that's something I love being a part of. And I know you feel the same way, with your art and music and writing and composing and teaching. It's sort of giving back, but then, and then what's great is it's not work. You see what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I mean, I pinch myself at times. I just sort of like, I make a living doing these various things, and I don't go to an office. I mean, not that people do all sorts of great, cool things. I just feel lucky that I can kind of float in among, teaching and mixing and MOTU. It's been a good living.
Yeah, it certainly has. I want to close where we have about 3 minutes or so left in our conversation with a question that I end every interview with. And it's a personal question. At this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
I would say, when I was let's say between 18 and 30. And it's funny how now you can say 30, 35, because the world, people are getting older in some ways. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like, but here's the bottom line. Take that time, and when you're 18, and really dig deeply into your craft, like really, really dig in hard and really spend time, and don't limit yourself by saying that something's good or not. Try to learn as much as you can. If you're a composer, compose as many ideas as you can. I always think of it as this metaphorical bag, and you put all of these ideas and all of these sort of trials and tests, and you put it all into this little sort of metaphorical bag that you carry. And after you put all this time and energy into, let's say, trying these different recording techniques, writing these different songs, gigging, playing, touring, doing everything you possibly can. Then let's say you slow down a little bit, or around 30, you decide, well, I'm going to start doing this. You'll be pulling from that bag for your whole career. Your whole career, you'll be pulling from that. And you'll probably wonder, well, when I learned how to, mic this particular instrument this one way, you'll be in a situation 10 years down the road, and you'll know exactly how to do it. Like, I kind of was lucky that way. I didn't kind of grow up until I was around 30. Like, I really just literally recorded bands and kind of lived the musician lifestyle, and just kind of, wrote a lot of lyrics and just kind of dreamed a lot, and just sort of, and I'm really glad that I didn't just rush out and get a job just to make a paycheck. I mean, granted, I lived cheap, but I just, passionately took in as much as I could, and I'm still pulling from that bag. To this day, that's the next chapter for me, is to sort of finally get back to some of these compositions that I spent, because, that's the stuff that I want to get to.
Being an artist.
Well, not so much. I don't have, visions of grandeur about being an artist per se, more so than I have.
Expressing yourself creatively as an artist.
Yeah, exactly. Creating my, and taking some of these compositions. It's funny when you know this, Terry, sometimes it's your own work that can be the most difficult to do. You can work on all sorts of projects.
Right.
But to create that distance for your own work, but, that's something that that's kind of some things I'm working on now. I've got a project that I'm working on that, some musical stuff where I'm singing, and it's more kind of classical in nature. That's some things that's on my plate right now musically.
Yeah, I agree. And it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with such clarity. I'm always sitting on 2 or 3 of my own pieces of music that I just can't get to. I want to, but I don't have the luxury of just sequestering myself and completing them. So let me. We have 30 seconds left, and I want to thank you for your time today. Tell everybody where they can find out more about you, and of course, and MOTU, and we'll share the sites on the page that we have on our website for you. Where can people find
Okay, great.
you?
So I'm at mattlapoint.com, and there's no E on LaPoint, LAPOINT, and MOTU, obviously MOTU.com. And then we talked about Westlake Pro. If you actually, WestlakePro.com, if you want to get the address info for those Thursday meetings every week, ongoing. And it's just been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much.
I can't thank you enough, Terry.
Once again, everybody, thank you for listening and joining Matt and I today on MOTU. And we will see you next week. So have a great one.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woolman.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al DiMeola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.